All right, everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is the Jordan Report. I'm your host, Robert Jordan. Everyone, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Okay, guys, we're going to go up to New York City and check on this defund the police program and see how it's working out for the everyday person. When these people think this stuff up, they never think about the average person, how it's going to affect the people on the ground. It's all politics to them. They couldn't care less about what's happening. Okay, I got a couple of articles, and then I'm going to show you the local news clip of how this is affecting everyone. This article is about the victims of the crimes that's going on in New York and their family, how this stuff is affecting them, and how the lack of police is affecting them. Okay? It's hurting everyday people, the people that's on the ground. I knew they would pay the price for this. So anyway, I'm going to start in the middle of this, and then I'm going to show you the next article, and then we're going to go to the local news clip. With no end in sight for the city's gun violence in mostly black and brown communities, victims' family now find themselves between a rock and a hard place in a growing movement to defund the police. Some, like Jovan Sanchez, are at odds with relatives angry about racial justice. I agree with the defund the police movement. I think NYPD is kind of useless unless it's coming from a Caucasian person that's calling. Other violence-weary families worry that the backlash against the cops might scare them away from street patrols, which would further hurt crime victims. Rebecca McCullough, 40, said she noticed a decrease in the police presence around her Bed-Stuyvesant neighborhood. I feel like they're giving up. They feel like everybody's against them. Not everybody wants them defunded, McCullough said. Her son, Lakey McKinney, was put in a chokehold during a police stop in 2016. Officer Mercado lost 15 days vacation as a penalty after an NYPD trial. McKinney, accused of having a gun, was never charged. Afterwards, McCullough was inspired to get more involved in her community and local precinct. We still need the cops. We just want to see better from them, she said. Okay, that's the average person. She has one son left, okay? Now let me show you what's going on. They're accusing the cops of doing this, and it may be true. You know, the cops may have just given up. She said they gave up. But this is what's going on. They want to investigate the cops now. The city needs to investigate possible NYPD work slowdown. Officials want an investigation into whether the NYPD protesting reforms with a work slowdown is the cause of an ongoing gun violence surge. We know what's causing the violent surge. They let all these people out on the street, and they defunded the cops. The two New York City officials are calling for an investigation into whether the NYPD has purposely slowed down in recent months to protest police reforms. Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams and Bronx Council member Richie Torres sent a letter last week asking the Department of Investigation to look into whether a work stoppage at the department is a factor in the ongoing surge in violent crime across the city. Can you believe that? I got the local news clip. I'm going to show it to you in a minute. There's a growing perception among members of the public, as well as elected officials, that rising violence in the city can be attributed to the work slowdown by NYPD officers in an attempt to protest local and state reforms that have been passed in the wake of mass demonstrations surrounding the murder of George Floyd. Okay? That's what they're accusing the cops of doing. I'll show you the local news clip. We're going to get out of here.
Now Newscopter 7 over a shooting near a church in Brooklyn. So how do you stop this surge in violence? Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett is live in City Hall with our lead story tonight. NJ.
And Liz, critics say one factor may be that rank-and-file NYPD officers are easing up. They say gun arrests are falling and response times are rising. Well, for the mayor, as far as his part, he says it is a false perception.
It was yet another bloody weekend in New York. The latest victims in a surge of gun violence that has gripped the city for much of the summer. Critics say it's no coincidence.
There is a perception among members of the general public, as well as elected officials, that the rising violence is largely driven by a work slowdown.
By this time last year, the NYPD had responded to 533 shootings with 627 victims. And in 2020 year to date, just over 1,000 shootings and more than 1,200 victims. Last weekend alone, there were 29 shootings with 35 victims. Councilmember Richie Torres and Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams are demanding an investigation. There are many factors driving the rise in crime, including cutbacks in police overtime and a crippled court system. But Adams and Torres believe that rank-and-file NYPD officers are easing up.
To what extent has the work slowdown driven the growth in violence in New York City?
They claim officers are disillusioned after weeks of anti-police protests and the new police reform laws. Today, the mayor and the police commissioner unveiled a discipline matrix, offering clear sanctions for a variety of police misconduct violations and a system to make the process at NYPD headquarters more transparent. This matrix has nothing to do with fairness, said the PBA president. It's an avenue for the city council's policing experts, the ones who brought chaos back to New York, to manipulate NYPD discipline to further their radical political goals. The mayor insists there's no evidence of a slowdown.
The reality is our officers are doing their job under very adverse circumstances, and actually community members want to more and more work with them to help them get that job done.
Now, I want to point out that the two shootings that Liz spoke about at the top of the show as we came on the air are happening in broad daylight. Yes, shootings do go up traditionally in the summer months, but not by a factor of 2. Adams and Torres sent the request to the city's Department of Investigation today. A spokeswoman for the department tonight says that that request is under review.
All right, guys, I don't know what they expected, but, you know, that's New York.